Hey friends, what is going on? Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my channel as always. For those of you who are new here, my name is Daniel from iosoundstudio.com, and my goal is to impact the world with music and to inspire and teach others to do the very same thing and share my journey with you as we come up. Now, for all of my artists, my music enthusiasts, and everyone who's just more interested in the music world, I want to make this video to kind of educate you guys about what it actually looks like to start a song from the very beginning all the way to the very end and take you through the entire life cycle of a song. Now, the very first part of the journey that any song and every song goes through is the songwriting and arranging process. Now, hopefully it's not a surprise to you, but every single song that has ever been written was written by a person or by a group of people, or honestly, even now, even sometimes AI. Now, if you've ever looked at the credits of some of the songs that you like, you may have noticed that sometimes, maybe even more often than not, the songs that you really like have been written not just by one person, but by a team of people collaborating to make that song happen. Now, this is something that's actually really cool that a lot of people outside of the music industry do not recognize, and that's the fact that there are people who dedicate their entire careers and have built entire careers just out of writing songs. Many producers, many songwriters, many music houses, lots of different places in the music industry dedicate specific people and specific time to just writing songs. So if you're a songwriter and you are wondering, can I actually make this into a career? You absolutely can, just like almost any other element and any other facet of music. So if you didn't know that, now you do. And if this is news to you and you had no idea that that song by Miley Cyrus that you really love was actually written by her and 5 other people, I challenge you to start looking at the song credits of songs that you find yourself really liking. I think you'd be surprised by some of the songwriters that you recognize are on a lot of the same stuff that you really like. Now, the songwriting phase can really last anywhere between maybe 30 minutes, like a 30-minute session, to a couple weeks, to a couple months, and sometimes even a couple of years. And the goal of this phase is that by the end of this phase, the song's lyrics are basically completely written and the song's arrangement is almost 100% finalized. The second part of the song and the song life cycle is the demo phase, or the work tape phase, or whatever you kind of want to call it. In this kind of phase, you basically set the idea that you have in the lyrics to music. Now, with a demo tape, as you'll hear people use the term in Nashville and other places where songwriting is very commonplace, a demo tape is basically the lyrics that you've written in the session played to something like a piano or something like an acoustic guitar, something that's really stripped down just to kind of keep that idea of the original song that can then get translated to a production later down the line. Now, along with that is the demo phase where people take that work tape and they basically put it all to music. This is where you'll have a music producer like myself step in and work with the artist, maybe sometimes with the A&Rs or the other songwriters that helped collaborate on this song, and you will actually flesh out the song and put more of a music score to the song, to the lyrics that were written for the song. Now, in this phase of the song, the arrangement of the song that was originally created during the songwriting element of the song, the arrangement can sometimes change, and it very often does change kind of as the production evolves, as it kind of develops the story of the song along. Now, if you exist in 2023 and you've seen an artist promoting an upcoming release on any social media platform, whether that is Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, etc., you get the point. They very likely are only sharing with you the demo of that song. That's not the finished product. That's just a demo that they're working with their producer to finish making. Now, a song in this demo phase can typically live here for a couple of weeks, a couple months, very commonly, or a couple of years. And frankly, some songs never leave the demo phase. In fact, I was just talking to another producer who was telling me all about how he has a hard drive or several hard drives filled with demos that have never seen the light of day, and very honestly, that is the reality of the music industry. There are a lot of songs that get produced and are demoed, but then never go on to be mastered and released to the world, because that's just a part of it. And typically at the end of this demo phase, after the artist and the producer are pretty happy with the end result, typically the producer will bounce that down to a stereo MP3 file and send it on with the artist or maybe with the manager for reviews and kind of ideas, and that will go back and forth a little bit between the artist and the producer until they finalize the underscore or the musical aspect of the song and they're finally happy with it. And from then we get into phase 3. The third phase of a song's journey is the recording / the mixing process. Now, typically those will be two completely separate processes, but oftentimes they kind of get mushed together, and I will explain in just a second. Now, once the song is finally agreed upon between the artist and the producer, and the artist is happy with the song demo, or the manager is happy with the song demo, then from there the song will go in one of two directions. In the first scenario, the producer that the artist is working with closely to compose the entire track, that producer will then bounce out all of the stems, including the vocals that were recorded during this phase, and send all of those tracks to a mixing engineer, and the mixing engineer will then mix the song and make it sound balanced and coherent sonically. In the second scenario, that artist might then go to another producer whose studio is more geared to produce and record vocals. Now, very commonly, the producer that created the underscore for the song and the vocal producer are the same producer, but there are oftentimes producers who dedicate their whole careers to just doing vocal production. So there's very commonly two different producers who will work on a song. Now, this vocal producer may have some specialized gear that helps get a very clean and a very well polished vocal that then gets sent to the mixing engineer after all the stems and those finalized vocals are all recorded at that second studio. That's often the case, but that's definitely not always the case. In my experience with all the artists that I've worked with, I have typically been the vocal producer, or the artist has even kind of self-produced their vocals, and I have worked to get those vocals sounding really good in the production that I'm working on, and then get all of the tracks that I've produced and the vocals that the artist has either recorded with me or the vocals that the artist has recorded on their own or at another studio remotely, and then I'll send all of those to a mixing engineer, or I will mix the song myself. Now, I've used the word mix probably a dozen times by now, and you may not know what that actually means, but this is what it is. A mixing engineer will then take all of the things from a producer, including things like the guitar and the piano and the synthesizers and whatever else there might have been that was recorded, including the top line vocals from the artist, and the mixing engineer will take all of those things and basically blend them together to make them sound clean and make them sound balanced and make sure each sound is well represented in the final song. One way that you could look at it is that a song is kind of like a meal. The producer is the person that actually sources all of the individual ingredients for that meal and ultimately sends all of those ingredients to the cook. The cook then takes all of those ingredients that were given to them from the person that produced them and puts them together in a delicious meal. Now, that's kind of weird, but the idea still kind of holds. Now, the mixing engineer will typically have more specialized equipment, more specialized software, whether that's just a huge library of plugins or a bunch of outboard gear that will help take that production from the producer and will make it sound so much better sonically. They will basically get every single thing that's in the production to fit together and be woven together beautifully in a beautiful tapestry of a song. They'll make sure everything sounds clear, or they'll actually take a lot of things and make sure that they just gel well together. Like if there's a guitar and there's a synthesizer sitting in the exact same spot and there's like maybe 10 guitars or something like that, the mixing engineer's job is to make sure all those things, all those frequencies work together to make the song sound fuller and more enjoyable in the end. And by the time the mixing engineer is finally completely done with their part and they go through several iterations of the mix for a song, that song then enters the final stage of the song creation process, otherwise known as mastering. Now, in the mastering phase of the song, that mix that we just talked about is then taken by another engineer, and this engineer is specialized to make mixes sound absolutely killer. Now, I do want to put a little disclaimer in there and say that the mastering engineer can only work with what they are given. So if they're given a really terrible mix, a really great mastering engineer will still get that mix to sound good. Now, with that being said, the best mastering engineer in the entire world could not take a crappy mix and make it sound world class and make it win a Grammy. That's just completely unrealistic, and unfortunately, that's not how this works. However, a lot of people think that it is how it works, and I have to inform you that it's just not. And also, similarly, the mixing engineer can only take what the producer has given them, and so even a really great mixing engineer cannot take a horrible production and make it sound really good. And one step further, the producer can only take what the songwriter and the artists give him. And so this is just a great rule of thumb if you're a musician, if you're an artist and you're trying to make great songs. A great rule of thumb is that if that song is not already a killer song from the get-go in just the songwriting, it's not going to be an amazing production in the end. One really good way to test this is take the song, just play it on an acoustic guitar or a keyboard, and if it sounds good, it still kind of has all the energy and all the emotion that you think can be conveyed well to your audience, then take that song and go ahead and go through the production process. But don't do that prematurely. Don't get all excited and start wanting to just throw other guitars and other things on top of it if the song isn't already good at its foundation. Okay, so back to the mastering process. During this process, the mastering engineer will level match the song, meaning they will take the level of the mix and they'll bring it up to the same volume that you hear, that you perceive as the other songs in that song's niche across streaming platforms. A mastering engineer may use something like an equalizer or a compressor or several compressors or stereo widening and different meters and all of the things, and their goal is to make the mix sound musical, to make it sound loud and punchy, and to retain the dynamics of that mix. Many novice mastering engineers crush the life out of their mixes. And that's one thing that you can use to clearly differentiate between a very well-practiced, well-disciplined mastering engineer and a novice mixing engineer. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Great mastering engineers are irreplaceable and they are absolutely worth the money. They truly can take a great mix and make it absolutely next level. They can take a good mix and make it great. However, a lot of mastering engineers will not be able to take an absolutely terrible song and all of a sudden magically make it amazing. But they can definitely take a song up to the next level. Now, you might have heard the term the master of a song or the master copy. This is where that term comes from. After the mastering engineer bounces out that 2-track, or nowadays that file that's even in surround for Dolby Atmos, they will take that file and that's the file that gets released to Spotify and gets released to streaming platforms and gets pressed into vinyls or printed into CDs, etc. That is the copy that you will end up hearing as an audience member or as an artist. That's the thing that you will get back from your mastering engineer, is the master copy of the song. And this is the finalized product that has the majority, if not all, of the royalty implications for the songwriters, the managers, the A&Rs, the record labels, the producers, etc. So friends, I do hope that that was really educational, and I do hope that you learned a little bit more about the song creation process, and that it's not just about someone sitting in a room and making the beat and recording everything and then sending it out. So just as a recap, the very first phase is the songwriting and arranging process. The second is the work tape / demo phase. Third is the recording / mixing phase, which really are two separate phases but can oftentimes be compressed into one. And fourth and final is the mastering phase. And that is the entire life cycle of any song that you ever hear. So the next time that you hear a song, just think about it from that perspective of, wow, this song has already been through an entire journey, and I assure you that that will give you a much greater appreciation for that song. Friends, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my channel as always. If you want to support this channel more directly, of course you can do so through my Patreon. The link is in the bio. If you have any questions, if you want to work together or anything like that, you are welcome to follow me on my social media platforms, on Instagram, on TikTok, etc. And you can also leave a comment below to tell me what you've learned in this video, or maybe just some questions that you have about music production and the music production journey, about getting started or anything like that. I would be more than happy. I will see you next week with a new video. Mixing engineer. One second, my wife is calling me. Hi, wife.
Okay. I probably leave work early.
Oh.
I'm going to Walmart to grab ice cream. Do you need anything?
What are you getting ice cream for?
Because I want ice cream. I want Moose Tracks.
Oh, get moose tracks. There's some stuff on the list that I put on.
Okay.
Not a whole lot.
I'll get it.
Okay, I love you.
I love you.
All right, bye. I love my wife.